Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Niger Ennis Presents the Trump Revolution, a part of the TvAbraham network. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we just got some breaking news, according to the Financial Times, that Tony Blair, the former Prime Minister of Britain, has stepped down from President Trump's uh, Board of Peace, which is a central part of his peace plan for Gaza. We don't know the details yet for why he stepped down or was removed from the Board of Peace, but that is in the news. Well, to discuss this and so much more in the Holy Land is Dr. Dov S. Zakheim, who is one of America's most respected voices in defense and strategic affairs. A former Undersecretary of Defense and Chief Financial Officer at the U.S. Department of Defense, now called the Department of War. He also served as Deputy Undersecretary of Defense in the 1980s. He is currently a senior advisor at the Center for Strategic and International Studies and vice chairman of the Foreign Policy Research Institute. Few figures combine his depth of experience in U.S. Defense policy, international security, and global diplomacy. Dub, thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure. Well, as I just said, Dov, uh, former President Tony Blair stepped down from President Trump's Board of Peace, which is a critical part of his peace plan for Gaza at one of the most difficult moments in decades. What should be done now more to make sure to achieve the goal, and what conditions must exist for it to succeed?
Well, first of all, regarding Tony Blair, I think it's really important. We don't know why he resigned, but as a former prime minister, he may have had a lot of other obligations and may have simply felt it was more that he could take on. But I'm speculating. I don't really know. Uh, I think that it is important that the administration enlist someone else who's very prominent and someone who commands the respect of both Israelis and Arabs, including Palestinians. I think it is important to do that. I'm sure they'll find somebody that can do that, but it is important. Now, in terms of where we go next, first thing is to get them, the Hamas folks, to release that last hostage. Once that is done, you have really effectively gone past the first stage. There is this issue of Hamas disarming, but it'll be a lot, I think, easier for our Arab friends in the Gulf to pressure Hamas once the Israelis have got what they initially wanted, which is to get their hostages back, dead or alive. It's not going to be easy. But I think if President Trump continues to get really roll his sleeves up and stay involved, then I think things can happen. I think he is really critical to all of this. Uh, First of all, he commands the respect of the Israelis and the Arabs. Probably like nowhere else in the world right now. I mean, I've been talking to Europeans, they've got issues with him. Other people have issues with him. Not the case in the Middle East. That's really, really important. But he's
Some,
got
some,
to.
some
Sorry.
say that he's actually more popular in Israel than Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu.
I think that's right. They're not naming too many places after Mr. Netanyahu, but they're naming places after Mr. Trump. So, yes, he commands respect there, but he also commands tremendous respect in the Gulf. If
Yeah.
you look at where previous administrations were, say, with Saudi Arabia, nothing like what Mr. Trump has with the Saudis or the Emiratis or most of the Gulf and the Egyptians and the Turks. I mean, the players in the Middle East that really count to make this uh, Gaza deal really work all seem to trust Mr. Trump. Really, really important.
It is almost as if his presidency is a godsend to that region and to those of us that are deeply concerned with peace, promoting peace and prosperity in that region. Well, let's get to Gaza in particular. With large parts of Gaza destroyed and institutions collapsing, rebuilding will require security, governance reform, and massive investment or funding. What would a realistic and sustainable reconstruction framework for Gaza look like?
Well, you're right. I mean, you can't really have reconstruction without security. And so the multinational force that Mr. Trump contemplates has to be put together. Now, you've got an issue here clearly between Mr. Netanyahu and Mr. Trump over how you deal with Palestinian aspirations. The Saudis have made it very, very clear that there has to be some pathway for the Palestinians. They don't seem to have a timetable, but they want a pathway, which is a little bit different. And from what I've seen, Mr. Trump doesn't disagree with that. If we
Uh,
can get, yes,
when you talk about Palestinian aspirations, you're of course are talking about a Palestinian state of its own. So it's in some type of manifestation.
exactly, in some type of manifestation, that's a very good choice of words. Um, that is something that I think is crucial for bringing the Saudis on board. They've said so. And Mr. Trump hasn't, you know, disagreed with them. If the Saudis are on board, the rest of the Arabs are on board. And the Indonesians are probably on board. And the Turks will be on board. And so though we're now talking about the group of countries that will provide that peacekeeping force, which you desperately need in order to provide the security. So that's step one. Step two then is investment in construction and infrastructure. Yes, there has to be political reform. Political reform is not so easy, as we know. It's a much more of a step-by-step process. But reconstruction can get going. And reconstruction, yesterday I was with a former Turkish minister, and the Turks are the second largest infrastructure. They have the second largest number of infrastructure companies and work in the world behind China. Well, you don't want China in there, that's for
Wow.
sure. But you do want the Turks in there. And I remember when I was coordinator for Afghanistan, which was one of my jobs when I was in the Pentagon, uh, it was Turkish construction that was building up Afghanistan in those early years. So you need the Turks. You need our people, of course. And there are others. But you need the infrastructure. I mean, so much has been destroyed: schools, hospitals, homes, kind of like what Putin's doing in Ukraine, quite frankly. And you got to rebuild it. And the best way to, by the way, the best way to get stability is to give people a home, a roof to live under, food in their bellies, and a little bit of security, uh, that nobody's going to wake them up in the middle of the night. That can be done. And so that's part of the next step.
Well, that brings me very nicely to our next question, which is, and I think you and I would agree that not only is the U.S. the only power capable of shaping credible international response to this crisis, but President Trump in particular may be the only person in the world that is uniquely qualified and blessed to get this done. How should the United States lead diplomatically, militarily and politically to prevent further escalation and a step back into violence?
Well, again, I think if you can uh, develop Gaza into a peaceful place, into a place that people are comfortable living in, making a living, uh, thinking about a future that doesn't involve being bombed or being run by Hamas, then you are getting to where you need to go. And you're absolutely right. There is no one else in the world who can do what Mr. Trump has done. I mean, who else could have put together the Abraham Accords, for goodness sake?
Exactly. It's amazing. And many, of course, argue that any future, the pessimists, any future peace is impossible. Actually, not just the pessimists, the pragmatists too, is impossible without disarming Hamas, while others are saying the goal is unrealistic. I actually go even deeper than that with my thoughts. I believe that as we did after World War II in Germany, there was a denazification ideological program that needs to take root in Gaza as well. Not only removing, almost like a weed and seed program where we weed out Hamas and plant the seeds for peace by a kind of denazification like process in Hamas.
Well, first of all, if you give people security, we know that so many Palestinians in Gaza really can't stand Hamas. They've been brutalized. They know that the money that Hamas got from Qatar did not go for development, it went for weapons. They know all of that. What they don't have is a force to back them up so that they can resist Hamas.
Right.
Once that peacekeeping force is in there, the people are going to turn on Hamas. And if you have, you're going to need some kind of Palestinian grouping, maybe the Palestinian Authority, but you're going to need a Palestinian leadership to give the ordinary people an alternative. And if there is a force on the ground, and if the United States is fully committed to the plan that Mr. Trump has laid out, then Hamas is not going to have much option. And so you whittle away at them. And yes, I think it is possible to disarm. Now, people say, oh, this can't be done. And they certainly say, well, the Palestinians and Israelis can never make peace. Well, I'm reading a book right now about the Franco-Prussian War.
Mm.
So the French and the Prussians and the Germans were killing each other in 1870. Then they were killing each other in 1914. Then they were killing each other in 1940 and 40 to 40, 39 to 45. And guess what?
They're now the centerpiece of the entire EU, if you will.
That's my point. And so it's not impossible. What you have to have is leadership both from the inside and the outside. And really, the only person who could provide the outside leadership is Donald Trump.
Absolutely. Well, one of the keys to moving forward is dealing with the millions of civilians that are trapped in a catastrophe of conditions with aid blocked or insufficient aid, exactly because of what you talked about in terms of Hamas taking the resources and the investment and using it for violent means. What urgent steps must the international community take to relieve the humanitarian crisis and protect civilians?
Well, I think the first thing they've kind of done with the Security Council resolution, I think you need other countries to provide the resources for, say, the infrastructure construction. As I say, I mean, the first thing a person needs is a home,
Right.
and and a home that won't get bombed. And so, if you're going to have the peacekeeping force, that'll help keep the homes from being blown up. But you need somebody to build the homes in the first place.
Right.
Now, as I mentioned, you've got the Turks, you've got others who can do the construction, but somebody's got to fund it. And it shouldn't just come from Uncle Sam, quite frankly. And I think, the Europeans have been pouring money into Palestine for many years, and it's all gone in the wrong places. But now you've got an opportunity to put money in there where it'll really pay off.
Well, speaking of money and investment, I think that the Saudis and the United Arab Emirates have played a very strong role in the prospect and the promise of investment in a future peaceful situation. And more than that, the UAE in particular, under the leadership of Sheikh Mohamed bin Zayed, has become one of the largest humanitarian donors, a driver of regional stability, and a key partner and peace building efforts. In fact, we all are grateful and honor President Trump and Jared Kushner's leadership in shaping the Abraham Accords and bringing it to fruition, but a partner that is not as talked about in that effort. A critical partner in that effort is Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed's leadership, which helped bring folk along for the Abraham Accords. How do you assess the UAE's role in the current crisis, and what does MBZ, Mohammed bin Zayed, his leadership model offer for the future of regional stability? About a year ago, I wrote an article comparing MBZ to Anwar Sadat, who, of course, was a key critical piece of the peace that has existed for, my God, almost 50 years between Egypt and Israel.
Well, first of all, when I mentioned the Europeans, that was not to, by any means, to exclude the Gulf countries, because the Saudis are critical and the Emiratis are critical. I've known Sheikh Mohammed. I first met him about 25 years ago. And what's impressive about him, first of all, he's extremely bright. Uh, if you knew the guy, I mean, he's very smart. He's also not a showboat. He's actually likes to be, like you said, he's a little bit behind the scenes.
Yes.
Uh, but he's a very, very forward thinker. I remember he once told me that he sent his son to a Swiss school so that his son could be exposed to other religions and other cultures. That's the
Mm,
kind of guy he is.
that's
Uh,
fantastic.
it is. And so, yeah, he'll be a major player here. And the investment on the part of Mohammed bin Sheikh Mohammed, on the part of the other Sheikh Mohammed, of course, Mohammed bin Salman of Saudi Arabia, their leadership will get the rest of the Arab world to pitch in, and frankly, Indonesia, which is a very important player here, the world's largest
The
Muslim
largest
country,
Muslim country. Yeah.
largest. And you know, if you get a partnership overseen by the United States of these Arab Muslim countries and Israel, you have changed the entire nature of that region. And oh, by the way, you're going to kick the Russians and Chinese out as part of it.
That would be a nice fringe benefit. I also think another fringe benefit is it's going to reopen the door to the Saudis, the Indonesians, perhaps joining the Abraham Accord, which is going to create an almost umbrella. I call it the golden dome of economic and military prosperity for the region, which I think, 10 years ago would have been unthinkable.
Well, I think the difference, you know, you talk about 10 years ago, you could talk about 20 years ago. The difference is that up to now, you've had policy people who they might have known history, they might have known culture, they might have known all of that. They weren't business people. And the thing about the Saudis and the Emiratis and the Gulfies, I mean, they're the first ones that had sovereign wealth funds. Why? These people are about business. And I have to give credit to the late president of Israel, Shimon Peres, who wrote a whole book about how Israel and the Arabs could work together in a business technological framework. Well, you know, you may want to criticize President Trump over all kinds of stuff, but you're not going to criticize him about his business head. He's coming at it as a businessman. And in this part of the world, that's exactly what you need. Jared Kushner, the same. Steve Witkoff, the same. These guys make deals, they do business. And that's what the Middle East could be about and is becoming more and more about. So if you solve this Gaza thing, you're right. The Saudis will jump into the Abraham Accords. The Emiratis are already there. The Indonesians will jump in, and then watch the Kuwaitis come in and the Qataris come in, and maybe even the Turks come in. You know, this is something that there's a lot of upside left.
There's so much so much positive attributes that could come from that type of growth, and just turn the page on these, centuries of violence in the region, and turn it to a peace and prosperity zone, which will rival any in the world. Well, thank you so much. Our time, unfortunately, has come to a close. I hope you will join us again in the near future. We'll reach out to you.
Well, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And please tell us, Dr. Dov Zakheim, if folk want to follow your articles and your thoughts and what you're up to, should they reach out to CSIS, or is there a more specific location?
Well, I write pretty much every week on the hit at for the Hill
Ah, yes.
Journal, and so just usually it's on a Friday when my columns appear, and just key in the Hill, and you'll find me.
Wonderful. That is Dr. Dov S. Zakheim joining us today. A wonderful interview. We will have you on again. God bless, and have a great rest of your week.
And if I don't speak to you before, and to your listeners, happy holidays.
Yes, happy holidays indeed. Bye bye now.
Bye.